Good morning, everyone. 26th of October, and it's a Wednesday here in Les Abdelong. Looks like it's going to be a good day here again. Thanks for all the comments on the from the people, everyone, all of you following this, and it's quite interesting. Going to get to some interesting weather in the next 3 or 4 days with lots of highs and lows all over the place. Anyway, the leaderboard is interesting. In fact, I had an email from a follower yesterday, pointed out a very interesting statistic that I didn't actually pick up in all the commentaries. And when you see the stats here on the leaderboard, it gives you the distance to the finish. Okay, so for time, and it's 20,627 nautical miles. That's based on the theoretical course. That's that red line going around the world. And also at the bottom, when you get the daily run, 24-hour daily run statistic, it goes from GPS position to GPS position. So it's just measuring the boat as it's sailing through the water every 24 hours. And they add that up and you get a total there at the bottom. So Simon's cracking on at 6,491 nautical miles. That's how far he's travelled up until 4 o'clock UTC today. And when you compare the statistics, it's very interesting. Pat, when you come down the bottom, Pat is right behind Abelish, for instance. So Abelish has sailed a total of 6,784 miles, okay, which is about 300 miles nearly further than Simon. But when you look at Pat underneath that, Pat's only travelled 6,076 nautical miles. So that's nearly 700 nautical miles less than Abelish, and yet he's right on his hammer. He's right behind him. So sometimes sticking to the rum line can actually get you home faster. And I hadn't actually thought about those statistics. And there's a couple of other private sites, some guys that are following the GGR. They're pulling off the raw information from the Yellowbick tracker here, and they're coming up with all sorts of statistics again, very detailed and interesting analysis of what's going on. So Seb, when he does the next press release, a newsletter going out, we'll highlight those. Couple of interesting things there. One guy in particular is putting out some amazing statistics. If you're a techno nerd or whatever, and you want to know all the fine detail about everything that's happening, there's some wow factor to that. So that's kind of fun. Anyway, back to the situation. Simon's in the lead, followed up by Tapio, not far behind. Abelish, Pat, Kirsten's still hanging in there as number 5. Damien's 6, so you can see everything that's going on there anyway. So kind of interesting. Okay, we'll get rid of that. So today we'll just push this up. In fact, we'll look at the big picture weather again. It's always the most interesting thing. So right now, you've got the influence of this high sitting there, the wind going around in a counterclockwise direction. So they're all looking pretty good. If we look at the lead pack, these 4, the deadly 4 here chasing the leader, Simon, have all started to range up again now. They're following the wind direction and they're thinking, okay, the centre of the high is above them, so they may as well start heading up. But in real terms, remembering you've got to be down here somewhere at the end of the day. So who knows? Simon's plugging along, not worried about getting too high. And if we go back one more, you'll see the influence. If we go through and watch what happens after a day, that's about a day ahead. You'll see this is distorting, but it still looks reasonable. Even Bonavitesia is just getting on the right side of the high here. And there's plenty of a strong northerly breeze coming down, which will keep moving them forward quite well. But there's another high forming up underneath them here. Okay, it's down to the south, and that's the one that will actually come into play if we start animating this. You'll see what's going to happen. So the boats are now going to be slowly moving forward. You've got 3 little high centres there, all trying to play tricks on each other. And you got to work out what's going to happen to the most. So this is coming into the 28th, so that's 2 days ahead. This is going to cause a bit of an issue here. This is just a big disturbance, and that's sort of like you can say it's the back edge of these highs here. That's a high. It's certainly not a low. This is just distorting, and that's the back edge of this high as well. So even though these have got confusion, it's not a low pressure. It's just the 2 highs over here colliding. Those other ones shot off to the side, but there's going to be a bit of a fluff there. So that's the 29th, but it gets very Now you can see what's happening is this high below them is going to start to take over, and they're going to get a range of either very light winds or headwinds. You can see it's coming across, and that's on the 29th in the afternoon. That's only 3 days ahead, and they're only going to be about to the end of here somewhere, so they're going to get headwinds. And you can see, I'll go through this in fine detail when I enlarge it, but you can see this big high here starting to have some influence, and that's going to be driving headwinds, for all those days. So into the 30th, 28, 29, 30, they're going to get light headwinds coming through here, which is going to frustrate them no end, but at least it's not big seas. So that's through to the 30th, and then there's going to be this big area of light winds, okay, from any direction. It doesn't matter where you are, and it's all being influenced by this high, which is now moulding into the other two. Getting into the 1st of November, so it's like 5 days ahead. And here, note that the southeasterly wind that we're talking about is picking up just off Cape Town. They're not there at that stage, but that's very common. That's what usually happens. And this is the next challenge. It always happens trying to get across an area where this high is creating some light winds, breaking across here, depends whether the front or the back or whatever. But again, it's all very traditional. You've got the influence of one high now that's formed up. If you're down here somewhere, there's always tends to be more breeze, more westerlies. So that's what they'll hopefully be trying to do when they get these light headwinds. They should be tacking on port tack to get down and get below the parallel of go below the latitude of Cape Town. So interesting things happening there. Anyway, we'll take that right back to the beginning now and just enlarge it so we can see what's going on now, just for the next few days in a bit more magnification. Simon's been doing 6.9 knots, very happy with that. Tapio's come up a bit, coming straight to the east now, 5.7. Abelish 6.7. Pat is doing 6.8, and Kirsten 6.6, so that's showing she's got a little bit softer there. Kind of interesting. So there's our lead pack. Damien's sort of in the same, in a similar area, but he's certainly a lot higher, 5.2, and you can see he's got lighter winds up there as well. Michael Goog 7.1. He's got some solid breeze there. He'll be very happy with that. Happy chappy is Michael. He's enjoying every bit of it. Ayrton 5.5, and he rang yesterday. Margie was not cheapest. Now I'm in trouble. Jane was in Paris all yesterday, so we didn't manage to get the SoundClouds up, but that's happening. That's happening today, so there'll be quite a few SoundClouds coming up. Ayrton was discussing the issue of whether he would or would not go to Cape Town once again, so that decision's still a few days away yet. He's still got issues with his electrical. Jeremy is here, 5.1 knots, consistent, making his way quite well. And you can see now at the back of the fleet some soft areas. So if we go right to our Nord, he's only making 3.9, and then we've got Ian Herbert Jones 2.9, obviously falling into a hole. Guy affected by the breeze as well, 4.8, but Elliot's just hanging in there, making 5.6. So let's just look at the weather now for the back of the fleet. We'll come forward a day. Still very soft. So everyone's going to be in it. Elliot and Guy are probably better off than Arnaud and Ian. But that's going to be with them for a while. So that's 1 day. We've got 2 days here. You can see, this light area is following them now. As they move forward, the whole thing's going over towards the east. So it's not going to be fast days for these guys. That's another day, and then they got light headwinds, so the direction is starting to go against them as well. So there's going to be some frustrations again there. They'll be talking to and watching the rest of the fleet pull away, even up until the 30th. It comes in again, but that's not so bad because when it's in this direction, it's an easterly, but they can afford to head south, so that's not so bad. Anyway, that's going to be a few interesting days. If we watch the middle of the fleet now, Damien and Captain Goog, Ayrton, Jeremy, for a couple of days, that's 1 day ahead. Still pretty good. They've all got a good breeze there to follow through. Captain Goog may fall here in this little hole. It's very specific, but it should be moving pretty fast. That's 1 day. He is 2 days ahead. Yeah, Captain Goog's back sailing, so's Damien, who is getting a bit fluky. Jeremy and Ayrton are okay for a couple of days. and then it gets very crazy. So, and this is where the whole lot starts to get very unstable. It's sort of like bordering on headwinds. It's going to move around. It's still okay, but there's going to be hit and miss. So 3 days ahead, there's going to be some will gain, some will lose. That's the nature of what's going on. You can see here the only breeze is headwinds. As soon as they tack away either way, they've got light either side. So there's going to be a bit of a scatter, I think, and going to be fun to watch all the way through here. So that's the 30th, and give a relative position, that's 4 days. So that's about 600 miles generally further forward. They could be right through it. Okay, so they're going to be up around here somewhere. That's where Simon will be. The rest of the fleet will be just behind him here. Damien might be up a bit higher. If he falls into this lot, it's going to slow him down a bit. Good coming behind, headwinds, so some fun days ahead. Anyway, we finally got to speak to Damien yesterday about his wind vane. So that story about the hydrovane and what we think was the issue will be out later today. So it's been a long time coming, but I know there's a lot of interest, and certainly from our perspective as organiser, we're interested because wind vanes are safety equipment for us. So thanks for that.